So again, I'm Karen Rezak. I'm the director of the Ethics Institute. My 21st year here at Kent Place School, first 18 of which was spent as middle school director and then founding director of the Ethics Institute. So welcome.
Welcome. My name is Ariel Sykes. I'm the assistant director at the Ethics Institute.
So we're very excited to be launching the official pilot of our Be Ethical Everywhere program in our primary school kindergarten, starting on Monday, March the 29th. And just by way of what we'll be covering today, a little background about where the Be program started, the idea, how it's been developed, the work that's been done over the last, honestly, 2 years to get us to this point, where we've been and where we're going, and then what will be the process for feedback, because this is a pilot of this program that within the next 3 to 5 years, we hope to market to schools across the United States and maybe even the world. So the concept for the Be program actually came out of an idea at a strategic planning meeting, because one of the goals of the Ethics Institute was to bring ethics into the primary school. It's heavily in the middle school and in the high school, but the primary school was the missing link. And so a colleague, Lisa Goldman, said, wouldn't it be, cute to have a little bee that buzzes around? The BEE is the Be Ethical Everywhere. And I said, that is genius. So from that moment, we employed a woman by the name of Sally Ziner-Marish, who actually is a Kent Place parent and is an administrator at another independent school. And she wrote the original story and manuscript. And over the last year and a half, Ariel has adapted the story with the help of our own primary school teachers and staff. So it's been a work in progress and a definite labor of love. About a year ago, we hired Sandy Nasante from Jersey Girls Creative, who is the illustrator of the Bee. And she was also responsible for the animation of the videos that we showed last year. Ariel has worked diligently with our teachers to create the teaching manual. Last year, because of COVID, when we couldn't launch this pilot, we decided to make those videos, and we are grateful to Ruth Anna Graves McQueen and Laura Mirabal, our primary school teachers, who are the voices of Beatrice and Queen Mabel. Finally, we're very grateful to the William Gross Foundation for giving us the seed money to make this pilot possible. And I am very grateful to Jennifer Galambos and the board and administration of the school for giving us this opportunity to create this primary school program that I think will really be life-changing, not only for students in our school, but students in primary schools, as I mentioned earlier, across the country. So these are the teachers and administrators who have been participating on the committee. They spent much time last summer, quite frankly. And Nathan Lutz, who's the current primary school, the interim director, he piloted the Bee for us last year during the summer camp program. And so we're very, very grateful to all of our primary school faculty and staff for their help and guidance, and for piloting this program starting on Monday. So the Be Ethical Everywhere program is ultimately a K-5 primary school program. The first 3 years, K-2, contains a large picture book with illustrations, and grades 3 to 5, of course, will be a short story book that's more age appropriate. There are teaching manuals for each grade level, which features vocabulary lists, questions, and I think one of the real strengths of this program are the extended and interdisciplinary activities. So activities not only relevant for the ethics that's being taught in each one of the chapters, but activities for STEM, for art, for history, for science, and for language arts. So it really is a very, very extensive, thorough, interdisciplinary program. And I think that that is really one of the strengths. Age-appropriate activities, lots of manipulatives for the littler children. And then, of course, as they grow through fifth grade, they'll be making much more complex and complicated decisions related to ethics, but they'll have the whole foundation that they will have had since kindergarten. So Beatrice is a little bee, and she's the star of the show. And Beatrice finds herself throughout the years in different dilemmas. And we want the students to be able to relate to Beatrice, not only in terms of Beatrice's likability, but relate to her in terms of developing some ethical decision-making skills. So one of the things we say all the time with our students in middle school and high school is you really need to think. You need to think, you need to open your mind, you need to think critically, creatively, and especially caringly. So to be able to respect and listen to the perspectives of the others in the class, you'll find that Beatrice always has to listen to the perspectives of the other characters in the story. The students, of course, will focus on different values through each of the chapters and each of the grade levels. They will see how Beatrice, and therefore how they can make decisions and be able to back up their decisions, and not just make a decision, but act on their decision and be willing to say, this is the reason why I made the decision that I did, and then reflect about it. And sometimes we don't make the right decision, and that's okay too. And then how do you think about the mistakes you've made in a way that will allow you and encourage you to make different decisions in the future? So over the course of, this is what Ariel was speaking about, we've had lots of feedback. And so the Beatrice and Queen Mabel have taken on some new characteristics. So you see there, Queen Mabel's a little slimmer now. Queen Mabel has some new, what would you call that? Accessories. We've accessorized her. And Beatrice herself has undergone a change. And probably the biggest change is that her best friend, Lucy, is now Louise. And so we needed, some of the feedback that came to us after the summer program was that there are no male character. Like, we need a main male character, and hence Lucy is now Louise. So I'm going to let Ariel talk about some more of the specifics of the pilot and the details of the program.
Great, thanks, Karen. So the pilot's going to start next week, and it will run till the middle of May. And what will happen is the kindergarten students at Kent Place will engage in the ethics reading of the story with their teacher, and then engaging in vocabulary review and discussion of understanding the story, and then talking about the ethics of that lesson every Monday from 1:30 to 2 o'clock. So half-hour lesson. For the kindergartners, we're trying to get each chapter in for about a half hour each, just for what's appropriate for their age group. And then after that, immediately after, while their experience is still there in their minds, we're going to ask 2 adults in our kindergarten B pilot committee to interview the students individually about their experiences with the story, the illustrations, as well as the lessons itself, to see where we can improve, and whether the objectives that we have for, like, these are the values we were hoping that they would connect with and understand. These are the skills we're hoping them to develop. This is what we wanted them to get out of the story, to make sure those things are happening, but also to continue revising, if needed, the illustrations of the story itself. And so we're going to split the class in half, and half of the class is going to be focused on giving feedback for the entire pilot about the story and the illustrations. Like, do they find the characters relatable? Is the story engaging? Can they remember what's going on? Is it too complicated, not complicated enough? Those kinds of things. So after each chapter, that half of group of students will be meeting one-on-one, for 3 or so minutes with an adult to talk about what they liked and what they didn't like about the story and the illustrations. The other half of the class is going to go with another adult. This is all going to happen in the classroom over on the side. We'll have one-on-one conversations with an adult around the ethics lesson. So like, what did they remember? What did they learn? What do they still have questions about, so that we can fine tune the ethics lessons to make sure it's doing what we're saying and promising you as teachers and parents and family members that it's doing. We're going to be recording this for internal use only, so that people on the B committee might not be all able to be there in the classroom for COVID protocol reasons, but also because of schedules, so that we can see like how the lesson itself went as an observation, and also for us to collect and pull the data from the student interviews. So we'll be listening to what students are saying to try to map out patterns so that it can inform how we revise the program this summer. And the pilot this year is going to engage only half of the curriculum, just because of time and where we're at in terms of developing. We're going to do chapters 1 through 5 at this point. So when we say that this is what the pilot's going to involve, like this is what your students are going to experience every Monday in the afternoon. So they're going to gather together, and on the second chapter, they'll review what they learned on the first chapter. And then the teacher is going to read the story out loud and review any of the vocabulary, things like what is pollination, right? What is honey? Things like are related to bees and the life of a bee. And then after the discussion, after the reading of the story, which will happen virtually on the D10 so that our remote learners can also participate in watching the visuals of the story, they'll engage in a short activity around any type of vocab that might need further elaboration. And then they'll get into the bulk of the lesson, which is the ethics discussion. That's going to focus around 1 or 2 values per each chapter. And after they engage in the ethics discussion, perhaps an activity related to that, they'll engage in a group reflection where they talk about like, what was the value that came out of our discussion today? What does it mean? And then they're going to put it on we're going to create a beehive where each honeycomb represents a different value. And so as the students build their value lists, the beehive is going to have more and more values. And the students are also going to be creating bees to represent themselves as ethical decision makers that are going to go around the hive. For the sake of the pilot this year, we're not going to be doing the adventure or the optional extended learning activities necessarily, but we're looking forward to implementing and piloting those next fall with the students. So we wanted to give you a brief overview of where we've been the past couple of years. And so to see like all the different stages and where we're at now and where we're hoping to go in the future. So the B program was conceived, as Karen was talking about, in the spring of 2019, and that's when we hired Sally to write the story for us. And then we began editing the story and creating the teaching manual, working with the faculty on campus as well as administrators to fine tune all of those materials in the fall, and that's still ongoing till now. Like it's a reiterative process. We do a little bit, we pilot it out, and then we revise and edit as necessary. Then in January of 2020, we settled on an illustrator, Sandy, and worked on developing the different characters and what they would look like. And you saw earlier how they've changed throughout time based on feedback from our community. And then last spring, during COVID, we decided to reveal the B program to the community to get excitement around it and also to start initiating some feedback around the characters. And that's where we got those animated videos and our beautiful bee song, which is actually going to start each lesson. We have the Beatrice theme song that's going to kind of initiate like, oh, it's bee time. It's time for us to talk about ethics. In June, we had parent and student feedback, which really helped us fine tune revisions necessary for the illustrations of the story. And then we started working with the kindergarten teachers on the lesson plans and how we were going to implement the pilot itself. And then in the summer, Nathan piloted the first 5 chapters with a co-ed kindergarten group at the summer camp at Kent Place, which was super helpful figuring out the timing and what needed more elaboration and what we could cut back on. And between August and December, we began to continue to revise and illustrate the stories for the kindergarten. So in January, we rolled out a similar kind of presentation to the primary school faculty and staff to kind of let them know what's going to happen in terms of kindergarten this year, and also, K through 5 for the rest of hopefully the next 2 years. And so we're here now at the kindergarten pilot, where we're going to be piloting the B program here at Kent Place. And Karen is working on piloting it at other schools in the area to see how different types of populations of students and teachers respond, so that it's, you know, it's a program that we want to have be an external facing program, not just something that we offer here at Kent Place, but that we help promote ethics education in primary schools throughout the country. So we want to pilot outside of Kent Place, and we'll be doing that as well. And then based on the feedback that we get from our pilots, this June and August, we're going to go back to the drawing board and make revisions as necessary around the story, the illustrations, as well as the teaching manual. This summer, we're also going to be working on doing the similar types of revisions around grade 1s and 3, so that we can begin thinking about how we're going to pilot those. We've already done that with grade 2. So in the fall of 2021, we want to be able to pilot in 3 grade levels, first and second for like the first phase, like what we're doing now with the kindergarteners. And then in the fall, working with the kindergarten to like implement the entire chapters 1 through 10 with the kindergarten students, with the revisions that we get feedback from this spring. And so then in the summer, the following summer, we'll do the same process, right? We'll revise kindergarten first and second grade based on our pilots. We'll continue working on getting the material ready for 4th and 5th. And then in 2 falls from now, we'll be piloting in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And we will have fully implemented Be Ethical Everywhere in K through 2. And then hopefully by the end of the summer of 2023, we will have a Be Ethical program for our K through 5 students at Kent Place. So we appreciate you taking the time to learn about this. We will be soliciting feedback from you as a family member, as well as from our students and faculty and staff, starting later in May 2021, once we start piloting things. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please reach out to us at ethics@Kent Place. And we see this as a partnership with our Kent Place community. And so we really want to make sure that we keep the lines of communication open about what's working, what's not working, so we can make the best program to promote ethical education in our youngest learners. Karen, would you like to add anything?
No, thank you.
So Karen and Ariel, it's an extraordinary privilege